Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am not here with Geeky Sparkles today, but this would probably be a topic that upsets her. She will be back later today in other videos. We've got more news about predators in the video game industry. And no, we're not talking about Activision Blizzard for a change. We're actually talking about Sony. One of their VPs was terminated over the weekend because they were allegedly luring a minor, trying to get this minor to engage in adult acts. Now, if this sort of thing bothers you, I have to give a disclaimer. You might want to turn the video off, talking about the P word. You know, I know it's kind of verboten sometimes, but it is what it is. It is news. And weirdly enough, many media outlets, video game media outlets, including IGN, decided they weren't going to cover it, which is kind of weird. We'll talk about that later. Now, since then, Polygon has covered it. CNET seems to have broke the story, or at least they were the first major news outlet to cover it. Newsweek is getting in on it now too. This is confirmed. This is not rumor. This is not scuttlebutt. This apparently did happen. So we're going to talk about that. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Over 244,000 subs. Thank you so much for the support. We do talk a little bit about the video game industry. We haven't talked a whole lot about video games here on the channel, even though we do have Clownfish Gaming on another YouTube channel, the Clownfish Studios channel, but we don't really talk news or politics or anything over there. We just play games. Now, it's interesting because Sony has been doubling down on virtue signaling for the last couple of years. And meanwhile, it would appear that they need to get their own house in order. You know, anime boobs are somehow offensive when they've got predators in their midst. And this kind of, reminds me of the situation with Rooster Teeth. Rooster Teeth, virtue signaled very, very hard. And it turned out that they actually had some guys on staff that were participating in some naughty behavior. Always seems to be the way, right? These companies, they always virtue signal, and a lot of times I think it's to throw the general public off as to what's actually going on. Let's all dunk on Activision Blizzard, which, to be fair, I think is an absolutely atrocious situation. But let's not look at what Sony's doing, or what some people at Sony are doing. So this story comes to us via D-Rezzed, which is actually our sister pop culture news site. Now, we've been running the site for about 2 years now, kind of in beta. And Mike wrote this story this morning citing CNET. Yeah, this is a thing. This actually happened. And I think he put the story up before a lot of mainstream media outlets covered it because they're afraid to, because, Sony spends a lot of money on advertising, right? Sony's not going to advertise with IGN if they cover it. And we'll get to that. We'll get to that because their editor decided that it wasn't worth covering, but they will talk about a single developer working on a Harry Potter game if they don't like the politics of that developer. But this guy wasn't very important. So PlayStation Network VP terminated after allegedly luring a minor. Over the weekend, a Twitter thread emerged regarding PlayStation VP George. Is it Cacioppo? Is that how you pronounce that? Allegedly attempting to meet a minor after exchanging illicit text messages with someone claiming to be 15 years old. He's listed as having been the senior vice president of engineering for the PlayStation Network since September 2013, according to LinkedIn. Now, that's kind of a high-ranking position at Sony. It's interesting, though. Dan Stapleton from IGN said he'd never heard of him. I bet that's why you aren't seeing anyone cover it. It's a guy no one knows being implicated for crimes unrelated to his job. If Sony turned out to have known and protected him, or if he'd used his position to do so, that would be game industry news. So it's not game industry news if the Hogwarts Legacy designer made videos in his spare time criticizing, SJW behavior in the gaming industry. It's not it's not video game industry news if the Five Nights at Freddy creator had to retire, quote unquote, because he got blasted for donating to Donald Trump. It's not video game industry news if the Tripwire CEO gets ousted after tweeting opinions on Texas abortion laws, right? So it's pretty interesting. Sophia Norwitz has this up, and yeah, it's true. I mean, look, we've talked about this before, that, gaming industry, pop culture, media, very selective in what they cover, when it comes to politics or when it comes to, rocking the boat with a big advertiser. And, Sony, I'm sure, is one of IGN's biggest advertisers, so they're not going to rock the boat on this one. But Newsweek has no problem doing it. Polygon has no problem doing it. CNET has no problem whatsoever. They were actually leading the charge. And neither does D-Rezzed, because we don't get a damn thing from Sony. So whatever. Vigilante organization known as People vs. Preds set up the sting. After a short text exchange, the decoy and the person said to be George Cacioppo, I think it's Cacioppo's, planned meetup. They plan to meet up as placed. The entire video is under 3 minutes. George is confronted in front of what looks like his home. He's wearing a PS5 t-shirt and appears to realize he's been set up. No Chris Hansen, though, right? He retreats from the cameras as the PvP team makes it clear to anyone within earshot of what the former Sony VP was allegedly trying to do. At no point in the video were the police called to the scene. People vs. Preds have posted a Google Drive link with screenshots of the conversation with two different decoys. The text can be seen in the Twitter thread below. People point out, at least he's wearing his PS5 shirt, so he's got some company pride. Tipster News, Senior VP of PSN, George Cacioppo, who IGN has never heard of, even though he's a Senior Vice President of PlayStation Network, was caught by an independent P-word hunting group known as People vs. Preds for allegedly trying to meet with a 15-year-old boy. Oh boy. Here are the chat logs. Again, I'm going to put a link to Mike's article in the comments. You can go out and read this for yourself. I think some of the stuff is a little too spicy for YouTube. I know they don't like it when you talk about the P word, but you can read the article and decide for yourself. Anyway, CNET's reporting that he's been terminated from Sony. This information comes from a statement Sony emailed out over the weekend. Unfortunately, the complete contents of this email were not published. Only the following blurb. We're aware of the situation and the employee in question has been terminated. Vigilante groups targeting potential predators are not uncommon in the wake of NBC's Catch Predator with Chris Hansen. In addition, in recent years, several YouTube channels have popped up using similar tactics to the infamous Dateline show. We don't do that here on Clownfish TV. While it may be commendable that these people are doing more to shed light on child abusers, some of these channels do so on questionable grounds. That's true. I don't know what the legality of this is. I really don't. I'm not going to pretend to. But apparently Sony thought it was enough of a problem that they did terminate him. So Mike said we held off on reporting the story until more information surfaced. However, it would appear that some people were outright refusing to cover it for some reason, including Dan Stapleton from IGN. He's an executive editor. Again, never heard of the guy. Don't know who he is. I never heard of him. Mike says it would be unprofessional to speculate that having spent several years in the entertainment industry, and Mike has, I can say that there is an apparent tendency for actions of predators to be downplayed, if not completely ignored. Yeah, there's some stuff going on in the entertainment industry, for sure. And, we know that in many cases, predators are protected, by either by their employers or by the system or whatever. Now, it's interesting, though, we talked about the situation with Vic Mignogna before. And Mignogna was actually terminated. And I'm not saying what happened behind closed doors. I have no idea. But I think it's very curious that here we are, 2 or 3 years after the situation with Vic Mignogna, and there's yet to be any sort of legal action or video or smoking gun. Why didn't anyone try to trap him? Again, I can't say what's happened or didn't happen behind closed doors, but I've yet to see a smoking gun on Vic Mignogna, and he was terminated, not just terminated, but blacklisted from the whole damn anime industry. I mean, geez, over the weekend, and we did do a story on that on D-Rezzed, that he got booted from the LA Comic-Con because he was going to appear at a vendor booth. He wasn't a guest. He wasn't actually invited as a guest, but he was going to appear at a vendor booth, and Twitter had a meltdown And, they asked him, or he chose to remove himself from the situation. But like, this guy's not allowed to go anywhere. And I haven't seen, any smoking gun. There are a lot of stories. It's kind of the same with Johnny Depp. Like, there are a lot of stories, but I want to see some evidence. In this case, we've got evidence. We've got hard evidence, and the media chooses to ignore it. Very interesting. Here's CNET's story. He allegedly set up a meeting with a person who said he was 15 years old on the Grindr app. Yeah, he was there for 8 years. The video cameraman is seen walking down the street at night toward a house. Person who appears to be Cacioppo, wearing a PS5 shirt, standing outside the house. Maybe he can get you a PS5 in exchange for some lewd acts. So this is not good. This is not a good look. And, it's the bigger story here. I mean, obviously it's disgusting. This is disgusting. But the fact that the media willfully ignores it, but they will come after anyone who has a wrong opinion that works in the game industry. Again, a lone developer on the Hogwarts game gets harassed until he quits the project because of some videos he made like 3 or 4 years ago on his own time, stating his own opinions on things. And they really weren't very spicy videos. But the entire industry had a meltdown. This guy existed. But we've got predators literally working at the top levels of Sony, the video game, arm of Sony. And we're going to ignore that because we don't know who this is. Absolutely bonkers, batshit crazy. But the media is picking up on it. Maybe IGN will eventually get their head out of their ass and cover it too because it's news. It's happened. He's been terminated. It is what it is. I'm going to wrap this up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.